It's a hazmat day in the firehouse, a hazmat day in the station. Oh, would you glow? Oh, could you glow? It's a hazmat day in the firehouse, a hazmat day in the station. Would you glow? Could you glow? Won't you be my glowworm? Greetings, responders. How are you today? I am doing great. Give me a second to take off my bunks. We don't want to track any type of cancer inside the firehouse. We've got a great treat in store for us. We're going to be going over hazmat. Let's come on over to the bunk bed. On my A to Z app, I ordered an amazing book that's going to help us in the first moments of a hazmat response. And the good thing is, I heard that it was less than 10 stops away. Oh, it's our good friend Truckee. What's that, Truckee? You don't like hazmat? Well, that's no matter, because hazmat's always out there, and we always have to respond to all these types of emergencies and make sure we're safe and we protect the public. You say that hazmat technicians are going to be the ones to take care of this? Well, unfortunately, we don't have enough hazmat technicians to take care of all types of hazmat events. So we have to know what to do in the first moments of a response. And that's what this great book is for. So just stay tuned while we go over all the great things once it gets here. Now just hang out, Truckee, while we go over this great book. Oh, I hear a knock at the door, and it looks like the package has been delivered. Let's go see what it is. Such great delivery people. They always treat these packages with such good care. Whatever could it be? Let me take out my trusty firefighter knife and cut away from myself to open up this great, amazing package. They do treat it with a lot of good care, don't they? And here it is, the 2020 version of the North American Emergency Response Guidebook. Let's take a look. We're going to go on a journey throughout this entire book in 4 different video series. Once again, I have many friends that are going to help me out work through this. Now the best thing, Truckee, is that it also has pictures so we don't just have to read things. And it's color-coded for our ease of use. What we're going to go through today is the front white pages. And then my friends, Craig, will go through the different colored pages. And then Dr. Knoll, our great hazmat chemist, will go through the green pages. And we'll wrap it up and we'll talk about the final white pages and everything we need to go. So let's go through this journey. Let's take a look at the white pages of my 2020 ERG. Now before I even get into this, you may see behind me, I have the entire collection going all the way back to 1980. We will see throughout this book why it's so important to use the most recent edition of the ERG. We have a lot of changes over the years. If I take a look back here in my 1980 ERG, it's much thinner. It doesn't have as much colors. Now, does that mean that the chemistry from 1980 to now has changed? Well, no. It's our knowledge about the chemical hazards and the new chemicals that have been created. So we want to use the newest and most modern edition, which right now is the 2020 ERG. So the great thing is, when we first start this out, we have a flow chart on how to use it. So if we do not remember exactly how to use it every single time, we can go to this first page and learn exactly where we need to go, what color pages we need to go to, and how we end up responding and working through this. Carrying on, we have our table of contents, which helps us out, just like many other books. It gives us a lot of important things. When we look on down, we can also see on page 354, the ERG 2020 User's Guide, which is a defined process on how to use this book and learn how to use this book. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our fourth video. We see our safety precautions. The most important thing that we see here is we resist rushing in. That's right, Truckee, we resist rushing in. We must approach cautiously from uphill, upwind, and upstream. We got to stay clear of all vapors, fumes, smoke, and spills. And we have many other things to note at the beginning of our hazmat emergency. This can help us for many other types of emergency as well. We also have notification, and then most importantly on page 6, our hazard classification system. We see all 9 DOT classes and the subsequent divisions that we have in DOT Class 1, Class 2, Class 4, 5, and 6. So if we see that placard on the semi-truck on the side of the road, we can identify what the hazard is. And then we have our introduction to our table of markings. The most important thing that we see here is we see the circle with the number inside it. That tells us what orange action guide page we want to go to. Now it's very important when we look through these white pages and we're trying to identify things, this is the least informative way of doing this. If we have the UN number or if we have the name of the chemical, that'll get us to a much more defined guide page. But if we only have a container shape or a UN placard, we can go off of this and start to make a plan, our incident action plan. On page 8 and 9, we have all the great colors. You love the colors, right, Truckee? Absolutely. So this gives us a general guideline. For example, when we take a look at the bottom left on page 8, we see that our flammables and our combustible placards, the color red with the burning mark, we go to guide page 127. We would go to the orange action guide page, which Firefighter Craig is going to talk about in the next video. And now we have the best part that you love there, Truckee. We have all the pictures. Our rail car identification chart can give us clues for our pressure and our non-pressure tank cars. It can also give us clues for visual indication for box cars and hopper cars, some of our general hazard materials carrying containers. And then we get over the highway, your favorite place, right, Truckee? Absolutely. And we sit there and we see all of our different types of container identification for our hazmat carrying specified trailers, like the DOT 407, or the TC 407, or SCT 407, MC 307, and TC 307. What do those numbers mean? Well, we could talk about those in other container classes, but it's most important for us to understand what these general hazards are for these containers. And we carry on, we even have a place to put notes if we want to try to remember anything for our own personal use. We carry on through the rest of the white pages and we see the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling chemicals. My gosh, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Why don't we just call this the GHS? The big thing here is we're able to see all of these great pictograms. Well, thank you, Truckee. The best thing about the ERG is with these GHS pictograms, not only for transportation can I identify things, but if I had my safety data sheet, we could see here in section 2, the hazards identification, we have pictograms. Now I may or may not know what each of these 4 pictograms are, but if I ever forget, I could take a look right here on page 17 and identify that we have our general hazards of acute toxicity, gases under pressure, hazardous to aquatic environment, and the corrosive to metals and organic materials pictogram when we take a look at that. So this can not only help us for transportation, it can help us for fixed facilities as well. Carrying on and taking a look at the rest of it. When we get on to page 18 and 19, we have hazard identification numbers displayed on intermodal containers. Now, this isn't required in North America, but we do see it on European tanks, in South African tanks, and in tanks coming from Asia. So many of our intermodal tanks that come over may have a UN placard number, but they may only have this hazard identification number. One great thing for us is we can sit here and take a look that my 2.0 on page 19 is an asphyxiant gas. Well, let's think about what DOT class 2 is. Well, that's my gases, and most of them are my asphyxiant gases. Let me carry on and take a look at some of the ones further down the way. When I look at things like 6, DOT class 6 is toxics and poisons as liquids or solids, and we see right there 6.0 is toxic or slightly toxic substance. If we double that number up, we get 6.6, and that is a highly toxic substance. If we double that number or triple that number, it can get even more hazardous. And another important one, we can even mix these numbers. Like an X668 shows us that it's a highly toxic substance because of the 6.6, and it's also corrosive, which is the 8. The X tells us that it reacts dangerously with water, just like the W with a line through it on our NFPA 704 placards. And then we start wrapping up the end of the white pages here, and we take a look at pipeline transportation. Now, it's very important to understand this book is written and created by the Department of Transportation. Many people think of transportation of things like trucks or trains, but pipelines also transport hazardous materials as well. Therefore, they're regulated by the Department of Transportation. We can even see it right here on the cover. We see that it's owned and created by the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Association. As we look back here through the pipeline information, we see the pipeline markers and information on where we're going to find pipeline markers. We're going to identify what types of items and equipment need to be on these pipeline markers for us and where they may be. And then, of course, considerations and how we identify any types of leaks for any liquid or gas pipelines. And that is all that we have with the front white pages. I'm going to hand it on over to Firefighter Craig so he can show you how to navigate the yellow pages, the blue pages, and most importantly, the orange pages. I'll see you soon.